Here's a close-up of the bark of that big beech tree, and you can see all of these little white cottony flecks are where one of those scale insects had attached itself to the bark of the beech tree. And then they have a pointy, piercing mouth part that pierces the thin bark of the beech, gets into the cambium layer, and they suck nutrients from it. And then we look back just a little bit, you can see a lot of these white cottony marks. Every one of those is where an insect was. So there's tens of thousands of holes now in the bark of this tree that provide entry points for the fungus. And so all these little blisters and bubbles are the result of the fungal action working just underneath the bark of the tree. And so unfortunately they attack even small trees like this one. And you can see there's a lot of those blisters. I'll get closer. And even on the bark of a young tree like this, it's already been infected by the beech scale. Right. I'll wait for this to focus. There's some little scale action. Little white cotton marks. Spider. And of course, eventually you end up with dead trees, like this one. And so down woody trees like this and standing dead trees like others in my forest are good habitat for all kinds of wildlife, vertebrate and invertebrate species. But the actions of the introduced beech scale insect are hastening the decline of these trees. If you look at the notes for American beech, beech is a tree that can live hundreds of years. 300, 400-year-old trees could be found in old-growth forests. So beech has a potential to live a long time, produce nuts over a very long period of time. So it was an important wildlife food, an important food for Native Americans and early colonists as well. It's palatable, so beech nuts are one of the few nuts that you and I could pick up off the ground and eat. And sometimes in a good beech nut year, if I'm not in the woods in the fall or winter, I'll do that. They overwinter, and so they're available to animals all winter long before they germinate in the spring. So it was one of those kind of keystone forest species. It has a very wide geographic range. You'll find that if you do your research. So it spans from Canada all the way down to the Gulf Coast. And it's coastal and inland forms. So it was an important part of our native forests, and it's being the dieback is hastened by that insect, but also because it does so well in sprouting from its root system, we sometimes find these monocultures of beech in the understory that exclude other native species. And the other thing it has going in its favor is deer don't like to browse on it. So in areas where there are a lot of deer, beech is one of the least preferred food sources, and deer will selectively change the composition of the forest by avoiding beech and browsing on things like maples and oaks. But then the beech gets infected with the insect and the fungus and starts a slow decline just as it's reaching maturity. So it's a sad cycle of disease and pest in our eastern forest.